It doesn't happen all at once. Losing yourself rarely feels like plunging headfirst into darkness. Rather, it feels like twilight slipping gently into night, slowly, gradually, almost unnoticed. It's subtle, like the soft rustle of leaves falling in autumn, or like the faint scent of rain on a summer afternoon, quiet enough that you might easily dismiss it as nothing at all. But then it grows, quietly yet undeniably, until one day you awaken to find your world slightly off balance, as if someone moved the furniture around in your mind while you were dreaming. At first, you tell yourself it's nothing, just a passing phase, a mood you'll shake off tomorrow. But then tomorrow comes, and the day after that, and the feeling stays, deepening slightly each day. You start noticing it more clearly, in tiny moments of silence, when laughter fades around you, leaving behind a pause just long enough to reveal that something within you feels strangely empty. When you catch your reflection in a window and, for a brief, startling second, you struggle to recognize yourself. You're not sure what's wrong, just that something feels unfamiliar, like a melody from childhood whose lyrics you've forgotten. Life continues around you as always. Familiar faces, familiar places. Yet beneath that familiarity, there grows an unsettling sense that you're slightly out of sync with your own story. It's as if you're dancing to a rhythm only you can hear, one that everyone else seems oblivious to. And so, you drift, carried gently yet persistently by this vague undercurrent of unease, questioning silently, what is it I'm missing? Why does my life, which I've built with such care, suddenly feel like someone else's? You find yourself looking backwards, retracing your steps through memories and past decisions, searching desperately for the exact moment things shifted, the subtle turn where you first lost your way. Was it when you chose practicality over passion? Was it when you silenced your voice to please others? Or was it something smaller, something quieter, an unnoticed compromise, a gentle betrayal of your own truth? You don't know exactly when it began, only that now it feels persistent, an uninvited guest who lingers quietly in every room of your heart, whispering that perhaps your carefully crafted life was never truly yours. And the more you try to ignore it, the louder it grows, until it becomes an ache, a gentle yet persistent longing that clings softly to your soul, impossible to shake off. Perhaps you even try to escape it, filling your days with distractions, burying yourself in work, entertainment, or empty conversations, hoping to drown out that soft yet relentless whisper. But each distraction fades, leaving behind the same unanswered questions. Like footprints on the sand after a retreating tide, the ache remains, patient and quiet, gently insisting that you look deeper, that you listen harder. There was a woman once, a skilled dancer whose movements enchanted everyone who watched her. Each night she would perform flawlessly, each graceful step met with applause, admiration, recognition. Yet behind closed doors, alone in her room, she felt an inexplicable heaviness. Her body moved with practiced precision, yet her spirit felt strangely detached, as though each dance belonged to someone else. One evening, standing alone in the empty rehearsal studio, she stopped abruptly in the middle of a routine she had performed 1,000 times. Her reflection stared back from the mirrored wall, eyes wide, breath uneven, and in that moment of pause, she understood something profound. She had spent years performing dances choreographed by others, living out visions created by everyone except herself. The ache she felt wasn't from exhaustion, it was from longing to move freely, to dance authentically, to create from her own heart rather than follow the script handed to her. Her journey back to herself began in that quiet moment, in the honesty of her stillness. You too might sense that your own ache is not punishment, nor a sign of failure, but a gentle invitation from deep within, calling you towards something truer, something hidden beneath the surface of your life. It's as though life itself is softly asking, are you brave enough to see what you've been ignoring? Because often, the subtle lostness we feel is life's quiet gift, its gentle way of guiding us away from paths we never consciously chose, towards roads that reflect our authentic self. It nudges us softly, whispering reminders that we were never meant merely to exist comfortably. We were meant to live deeply, truthfully, courageously. This ache is life's subtle protest against the illusion of comfort, against the easy choices that quietly disconnect us from our true selves. Perhaps in its quiet persistence, it seeks not to destroy your peace, but to reveal the deeper truth that peace built upon illusions isn't peace at all. It's merely a careful disguise, a comfortable mask that covers a yearning deeper and truer than the temporary calm it pretends to offer. The truth is, losing yourself rarely feels dramatic. It doesn't storm in with thunder or lightning. It arrives softly, gently, in tiny unnoticed decisions, in small, overlooked compromises. It builds in silence, and its voice grows slowly louder, urging you quietly towards something truer. And if you dare to listen, if you dare to pause in that quiet ache, you might find the courage to ask the questions that matter, to seek not a life that looks good from the outside, but one that feels right from the inside. In these moments of quiet honesty, you understand the profound truth. You haven't lost yourself. You're simply beginning to notice that the self you've built your life around is not entirely your own. And maybe, just maybe, that gentle realization isn't the end, it's the very beginning. So the next time you feel that quiet ache, don't rush to silence it. Sit with it, listen closely, let it speak softly, gently. Allow it to guide you inward, toward the forgotten corners of your heart, where truth waits patiently. Because this gentle, quiet ache isn't here to hurt you. It's here to lead you back home, to the truest version of yourself, the version that has always existed beneath the noise, patiently waiting for you to notice, patiently waiting for you to return. Imagine a grand library, endless shelves filled with thousands of books, each representing a life, neatly bound, precisely titled, clearly categorized. People walk these aisles with comfortable certainty, selecting familiar stories they've read countless times, finding reassurance in predictable endings. They cling to pages worn smooth from repeated reading, afraid to venture toward the unfamiliar. But hidden deep within this library, in a shadowed corner few ever visit, there stands a shelf labeled simply, Unknown. Most visitors hurry past it, averting their eyes, unsettled by its ambiguity. Yet occasionally, someone pauses, drawn inexplicably by curiosity, or perhaps the quiet whisper of something deeper within them. Their fingers brush hesitantly along the unlabeled spine of an unfamiliar book. Heartbeat quickens, breath holds, and slowly, with quiet anticipation, they open it to find every page blank. At first, panic surges. Emptiness feels overwhelming, directionlessness terrifying. The absence of words, of a pre-written path, shakes them deeply. But gradually, within that emptiness, a profound realization emerges. The blank pages aren't emptiness. They're an invitation. They aren't lostness. They're freedom, a chance to write not what has been nor what others expect, but what genuinely resonates with the truth buried deep within their soul. This is what being lost truly is, a privilege few recognize. It's standing before those blank pages, uncertain yet exhilarated, knowing that only those courageous enough to step away from familiar stories ever discover something utterly new. Because only when you risk losing sight of known shores can you find untouched lands no one else has ever seen. There once was a young woman whose entire life was shaped by the well-intentioned scripts handed to her by others. From childhood, she excelled in school, pursued a stable career, built a life everyone praised. Outwardly successful, inwardly she felt increasingly unsettled, as though she were performing a role in a story she hadn't chosen. Quietly, privately, this feeling grew until one day she could no longer ignore it. Terrified yet compelled, she stepped away from the security she had carefully built. Friends and family called her decision reckless, questioning how she could abandon certainty for uncertainty. Yet she set forth without a clear path, guided only by instinct, and a whisper deep within that refused to be silenced any longer. Weeks turned into months, her initial anxiety gradually melting into something softer, more profound. She began noticing details she'd overlooked all her life. The way sunlight turned ordinary mornings golden, the way strangers' eyes lit up with kindness, the subtle rhythms of life she'd missed while chasing someone else's dreams. And slowly, without maps or predetermined destinations, she began to feel something she had never truly known, herself. One afternoon, sitting quietly by the edge of a lake, uncertainty still surrounding her like mist, she finally understood something essential. She had never truly been lost until now. Before, she had always followed someone else's map, trusted directions handed to her by others. Only now, standing in true uncertainty, was she finally discovering her own way, guided by something deeper, something infinitely more authentic. The discomfort of uncertainty had become her greatest teacher, her most trustworthy friend. What if then, your own sense of being lost isn't punishment or failure, but rather life quietly offering you a sacred gift, the profound freedom of uncertainty? What if your confusion isn't an enemy to escape, but a doorway inviting you to step bravely into unknown yet deeply meaningful paths? Maybe you haven't lost your way at all. Maybe you've simply begun the courageous act of stepping outside the lines carefully drawn by others. Perhaps you're not lost, but exactly where you need to be, standing at the threshold of a life waiting quietly, patiently, for you to finally embrace it. There comes a moment when the relentless rhythm of confusion pauses just long enough for something important to be heard. It's subtle, like a gentle breath in a crowded room, or the quiet rustle of leaves on a still afternoon. This moment of pause isn't loud, it isn't sudden, it creeps in softly, almost unnoticed, a whisper barely audible beneath the noise of your frantic mind. Yet, once you notice it, you can't ignore it. It becomes the quiet center of everything, still, profound, and filled with potential. In this delicate stillness, a single question rises, tender yet powerful, demanding nothing yet inviting everything. What part of me is asking to be seen, loved, or heard right now? This question doesn't come as a savior. It doesn't promise immediate clarity or sudden relief. Instead, it gently opens a door within you that's long been shut, shedding soft, compassionate light upon parts of yourself forgotten, silenced, or hidden in shadow. It's not here to fix, but to heal, not to solve, but to reveal. Maybe the part of you asking to be seen is the quiet child within who grew up unnoticed, who learned early that silence was safer than speaking up. A child whose eager voice was drowned by louder ones, whose tiny hand, once raised with hopeful curiosity, fell back into their lap, unanswered and forgotten. Now, years later, that child sits quietly within you, aching not for grand gestures, but simply for your recognition, waiting patiently for your gentle acknowledgement, hoping softly that this time you might finally listen. Or perhaps it's the ambitious young adult inside you, the one who tirelessly chased success, awards, and applause, believing deeply that every new achievement would finally quiet the persistent whisper of inadequacy. That young adult climbed mountains, scaled professional heights, and filled shelves with trophies, yet still felt a lingering emptiness, because what they truly sought was not found in titles or applause. Today, that part of you quietly asks not for another goal or victory, but simply for your understanding, that it chased approval because it never truly felt enough on its own. It might even be your heart itself, weary from years of pretending. This heart has carried countless masks, carefully hiding truths deemed inconvenient, undesirable, or too painful to reveal. Each smile forced, each "I'm fine" spoken to appease rather than to share, has created layers of exhaustion, silently building beneath the surface. Now your heart softly asks for rest, for honesty, for the simple freedom to breathe without the weight of expectations or false identities. It asks to be held gently, compassionately, in the authenticity it so desperately craves. When you pause long enough to genuinely ask this question, something remarkable begins to happen. You shift your attention away from external explanations, away from blaming situations, people, or circumstances, and toward the quieter, deeper layers of your being. The chaotic noise that filled your mind slowly fades, replaced by gentle curiosity and kindness, initiating a sacred conversation with yourself. There's a story of an artist who sculpted breathtaking statues from marble, renowned for his flawless technique and exquisite beauty. People traveled far to admire his creations, marveling at how perfectly he shaped stone into forms of elegance and grace. Yet, despite his outward success, the artist felt deeply unfulfilled, burdened by a dissatisfaction he couldn't name. He sculpted relentlessly, hoping the next masterpiece would finally fulfill him, but each new creation only deepened his longing. One evening, exhausted and disillusioned, he paused in front of a large block of untouched marble. Instead of immediately beginning to shape it, He gently placed his hands upon the cold, smooth stone and closed his eyes. Quietly, he whispered to himself, "What within me is longing to be expressed, to be truly heard." In that silent moment, memories surfaced, not of his celebrated masterpieces, but of a simple clay figurine he once made as a child, crafted with no thought of acclaim or perfection, merely a joyful expression of creativity. Tears filled his eyes as he remembered that profound simplicity, that honest authenticity. From that evening on, he began sculpting differently, not for praise, but for connection, not for external validation, but from genuine truth within. This is the profound power of asking the right question. It doesn't merely bring clarity, it gently reconnects you with forgotten truths, restoring the bonds with parts of yourself long silenced or neglected. It softly invites you to rediscover aspects of yourself buried beneath expectations and layers of obligation. This question, what part of me is asking to be seen, loved, or heard right now, guides you not outward but inward, helping you navigate toward your heart's deepest desires, your soul's quiet whispers. It leads you home not through answers, but through compassionate understanding, reconnecting you to your inner world in ways nothing external ever could. Because ultimately, the journey through confusion isn't about finding quick solutions. It's about softly illuminating parts of yourself long overlooked. It's about daring to look inward with compassionate honesty, allowing every hidden fragment of your being to come forward gently into the light, finally seen, finally heard, finally loved. The journey of feeling lost was never about finding a clear road out of confusion. It's about discovering that home isn't a distant place or future destination. Home is the quiet, gentle space already residing within you, patiently waiting for your return. It's in the pause between breaths, in those rare moments of honest stillness, where you finally allow yourself simply to be, without judgment, without conditions. For so long, you've chased external validation, hoping to find belonging in achievements, approval, or acceptance from others. Yet, quietly beneath that chase, your inner self gently whispered, reminding you that real belonging has always been closer than you imagined, waiting right beneath the surface of your restless heart. Imagine a weary traveler who spends years wandering distant lands in search of a mythical garden rumored to hold eternal peace. He crosses deserts, mountains, oceans, guided only by stories, driven by a relentless ache. Years pass, his journey exhaustive and fruitless. One day, weary and defeated, he stops beside a quiet stream, no longer chasing anything at all. In the silence, with the gentle murmuring water reflecting his tired face, he finally sees clearly. The peace he sought was never beyond the horizon. It was here, inside him, in the quiet moments he overlooked while chasing something outside himself. Your own journey back home is like this, quiet, subtle, profoundly transformative. It's not about dramatic breakthroughs, but gentle realizations. It's shedding layers of who you believed you needed to be, and softly embracing who you've always been underneath. Peace, you realize, isn't something to achieve or earn. It's something to remember, something already within you, gently waiting to be recognized. And when you finally return home to yourself, something remarkable shifts. You move through the world lighter, no longer weighed down by expectations that were never yours. You smile more genuinely, laugh more freely, not because life suddenly became easy, but because you've stopped resisting who you truly are. You no longer wait for life's permission to feel joy. Instead, you carry joy within, quiet and unshakable, knowing deeply that even amid chaos, you can remain anchored in your own gentle truth. Ultimately, your feeling of being lost was never a mistake or flaw. It was your invitation. Life, softly and persistently, guiding you back from paths that were never truly yours, toward the quiet truth within your heart. So next time you feel lost, pause, close your eyes, take a slow breath, and whisper to yourself gently, what is life inviting me to discover within myself right now? In that simple act of quiet exploration, you won't just find answers. You'll find something far more profound, something endlessly comforting, beautifully familiar, deeply liberating. You'll finally find yourself.